Can you solve all these cultural relativism questions? Men are strong and smarter than women. You chose ethnocentrism, and it is correct. A cluster of interrelated culture traits. Correct. Cultural complex is the right answer. What is the cultural pattern of the elite? Nice selection. High culture is the correct and valid answer. The British drive on the wrong side of the car. Valid point. Ethnocentrism is true. One of the consequences in cultural relativism. Clear logic. Your choice, no moral progress, is sound. No culture is superior or inferior to other culture. You got it. Your choice, cultural relativism, is right. A belief that another culture is superior to one's own. Good job. Xenocentrism works well here. The practice of judging a culture by its own standards. Exactly. Cultural relativism makes sense. What is good and right is what a particular culture say it is. Well done. Cultural relativism is the right choice. The Chinese characters for China mean center of the universe. Well reasoned. Ethnocentrism is the correct choice. This argues that different societies have different moral codes. Sharp thinking. Cultural relativism is the right choice. Argues that culture is irrelevant to the validity of moral rules. You're right. Universalism is the correct answer. Pertains to the belief that one's culture is inferior to other culture. Right again. Xenocentrism is a valid answer. The tendency to view one's own culture and group as superior to others. Excellent choice. Ethnocentrism is the right answer. If the product originated from Western countries, it is surely durable. Great job. Xenocentrism is the accurate answer. What is the cultural pattern followed by the mainstream of the society? Excellent. High culture is a brilliant choice. A combination of a number of culture complexes into an interrelated whole. Nice work. You chose cultural pattern, and it is correct. The deliberate imposition of one's own cultural values on another culture. Solid response. Cultural imperialism is a valid choice. Cultural relativism. Believe that all cultures are worthy in their own dash. Perfect. Right is the correct choice. Is it right to believe that there is no moral standard in cultural relativism? Strong choice. True is the right answer. Judge other people based on the standards set by their own cultural associations. Nicely done. Ethnocentrism is a solid answer. What is the cultural patterns or traits that are globally common to all societies? Well picked. Cultural universal is the correct answer. You are required to look out of their own culture or belief before you judge them. Great thinking. Cultural relativism is the right choice. An individual tool, act, or belief that is related to a particular situation or need. Smart move. Cultural trait is an accurate answer. What cultural patterns rejects and oppose society's widely accepted cultural patterns? Bravo! Counterculture is the answer. An experience of disorientation and frustration upon the experience of another culture. On track. Culture shock is the correct answer. An experience of personal disorientation when confronted with an unfamiliar way of life. Smart pick. Culture shock is the correct choice. The practice of evaluating another culture according to the standards of one's own culture. Right choice. Ethnocentrism is the best answer. When someone is introduced to new and unfamiliar values and norms but cannot immediately adapt. Good thinking. Culture shock is the right answer. Which perspective involves evaluating cultural practices based on one's own cultural standards? Correct response. Ethnocentrism is the most accurate answer. Cultural relativism means that we judge a society by our own criteria of what is right and wrong. Strong choice. No is the right answer. The belief that cultures should be judged by their own standards and not the standards of another culture. Well picked. Cultural relativism is the correct answer. What cultural terms refer to the evaluation of another culture according to the standards of one's culture? Correct response. Cultural adaptation is the most accurate answer. Is the view that all beliefs, customs, and ethics are relative to the individual within his own social context. Perfect. Cultural relativism is the correct choice. What cultural term refers to the experience of personal disorientation when confronted with unfamiliar way of life? Bravo. Cultural shock is the answer. What does the picture imply? Nice work. You chose cultural relativism, and it is correct. Area that shares a large number of cultural traits. Good thinking. Culture region is the right answer. Which continent see the least amount of cultural borrowing? You chose Antarctica, and it is correct. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format? Well done. Contact Narayan Changda is the right choice.